weekly Quran class. We are continuing to study Surah Al-Fatiha, and this looks like going to be our final session of Surah Al-Fatiha. Last time we had Dr. Yamina had requested that we share some of the things that touched us in this study of Surah Al-Fatiha so far, and we had some volunteers. So, is there anybody who would like to share?
I can share.
Please, Hatice.
Okay, so I guess for the past few weeks, or during a certain point in one's life, or during certain moments, one feels a greater need for something than something else, and then that need kind of changes throughout the course of our lives. So for the past few weeks, I was, and I still feel the need to be guided. I was feeling lost, I guess, and I was trying to transform feeling lost to feeling a need to be guided. And I was and I guess with this need, I was like, when I was reading things, I started, receiving something or picking up on things that I wouldn't otherwise. So I was thinking about Dr. Yamina when she said guidance through Iman, and how when we ask for guidance, we have an idea of what we want. And I was thinking along the lines of, perhaps I don't know that I need X, but I do know that I don't want Y. And I was trying to think of this as, if someone is trying to teach me something, but I don't pay attention to it, I cannot learn whatever it is that is being taught. So to truly maximize the benefit that I can extract from the teacher and learn whatever it is that is being taught, I must feel a need to learn, and I must have a need to be guided. And going forward, I guess I can say the need that I feel will point and push me towards the guidance. And perhaps it can also be said that the feeling to be guided is also guidance in and of itself. And then I was trying to think of how can I understand this guidance? And one thing was, I guess, being aware of the nima, or the blessings or tools I have been given, and then learning how to best utilize these blessings and these tools, or even the 3 powers that we spoke about, and all other aspects of whatever makes me human as a whole in the most balanced way possible. And I guess a way to understand this balanced way is in feeling and experiencing what is the shortest and easiest, what is in alignment to with the way that I have been created, what comes as, quote unquote, second nature or naturally to me, and whatever it is that has been made easy for me. So I guess to conclude, the verse "Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim," guide us to the straight path. This verse is not addressing one that does not that believes that they're already well off, that they don't feel the need for guidance. It is one who says, "Ya Hadi, oh guide, guide me." And if I use my my free will, my consciousness, my feelings, my needs, my ability to think, and all of my human qualities incorrectly, if I use them incorrectly, then the lack of feeling wholesome or feeling dissatisfied is again a sort of guidance, guiding me to guidance, so that I may find the path which is made easy for me, which is meant to guide me. And in a way, everything then that I experience becomes guidance. So even in my misguiding of myself, I am being guided as well, which I found very beautiful, and it corresponding to that the feeling of wanting to be guided in me as I was listening. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Um, Dr. Yamina, do you want to comment or shall we keep going? We have, I think, a couple other people who had volunteered, or anyone else actually who wants to share.
Yeah, let's keep going. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
All right. So, who wants to go next?
I can share my reflections. For me, it was perhaps a small point, but something significant nevertheless. A concept that I feel has become more open to me, though I'm still trying to work on internalizing it, has been about my state as abd. The notion of being abd has been something I struggle with within me. I find a desire to not want to submit to anything, and yet when I realize that I'm already submitting, it's not something that I can opt out of. And it's through small, well, seemingly small things, perhaps, like my breathing this very moment, or being able to talk and relay what I am thinking at this very moment. All of this is me being in submission to my creator already. For I can't help but follow the order of creation as it is willed and created. I'm prone to compartmentalizing. I've realized what I am in control of and what I choose to give up control in. What I should leave up to God, and what I seemingly take care of myself. But I've slowly, and I continue to realize that in this viewpoint, I allocate a portion of control that I actually am not the owner of. Every part of me is in a state of obedience. There is no need of mine that I am capable of meeting myself, or so I realize each time I do think I am capable. And so for me, really feeling, really internalizing, really understanding, and not just theoretically, as I usually tend to distance myself from ideas, even if I accept them as true. It becomes true, but not something that I fully feel or see or realize in my daily life. And so something that really practically realizing that I'm abd, my position as a created being, that I am weak and needy, but that this isn't something I should want to escape from or run away from, but rather embrace and feel and soak in the comfort and security of. And so to have an owner, to recognize my Rabb, Rabbul Alameen, in my duties as a student, as someone, I feel myself quickly aging, as someone trying to figure out her life. I think this for me has been something that I've found in this realization. I found that I've been able to kind of exhale, and it brings in me, for as long as I'm conscious of it and continue to be conscious of it, it brings in me a sense of relief. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Commissioner. Any other sharing about what touched you most, or some of the things that touched you in these couple of weeks of study of Surah Fatiha?
I think Maha said she would volunteer. Maha?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuh.
I was intrigued by the concept of ownership because it didn't make sense that the whole word slave I don't relate to, as I've mentioned several times, and I actually find it erroneous because God doesn't need slaves, and the way we say it in English, or maybe even the way we understand it in my book, it doesn't make sense. So I always say devoted worshiper instead, or devotee instead of slave. So the discussion, Yamina's discussion on Malik, intrigued me, and made me, after hearing her out, made me realize, okay, there's a lot of positive in freeing dimension that I didn't realize before. So for like a week or a couple of weeks, I was walking around thinking of that, thinking of how does it feel to be in touch with the idea of being owned, and not just owned in bondage, which would be horrible, but owned by God and only by God. So it raised a connection of belongingness and being taken care of in a new way for me. For me, Al-Malik wasn't one of the names of Allah that I related to or thought of too much before. I related to other names of Allah and other attributes of Allah. So Malik Yawmiddin and our owner and Allah being our owner just took opened a different door in my mind and in my relationship with Allah. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a little bit maybe related to what was shared just a little bit before. Was it Aisha Noor? About the surrender, which usually surrendering and submission is in our mind associated with some negative connotations, because when we imagine submission, we imagine submitting to other people, to other forces, to other beings, and we do not imagine the first thing that comes to our mind is not submitting to God as our Rabb, because we don't know him as our Rabb yet. And this journey that starts with Surah Al-Fatiha is to get to be more in touch with who we are and who our Rabb is. And so the first time when we feel resistance to submission, I feel that part of it is fitri, so there is no need to panic, because it's through resistance, it's through the contrast of resistance and surrender that we get to appreciate the experience of surrender and submission. The problem is to remain in resistance and never never surrender. And part of it is fitri in this sense, but part of it is fitri in the sense of that it is a kind of unit of measurement. The fact that we want to be in control, or we want to know that, yes, we surrender in some areas, but in some others, we can do it ourselves. We are in control. Of course, all that is a false perception of who we are and what life is about, but that's how we start. And that feeling in the beginning is comforting, because if someone tells someone who doesn't know God as his Rabb, doesn't know the reality, if we tell him from the beginning, you have to accept that you have no control, that person will feel like in a void suddenly. So it is a process that will take time. We have to be patient and compassionate with ourselves. So the unit of measurement is, because we have been created with that need to control. Some people have it more than others, feel it more than others, but we all have that. We have a sense of happiness and joy and satisfaction when we are in control of something, and that's a sign, an indication that we have a need for things to be in control. But when we are in ghafla, when we are mindless, where we are in the beginning, at the beginning of our spiritual journey, to know who we are and who God is, to be aware of the reality of what is, we do not see it as a need for things to be in control. We think that we need to control it. But because we have that need, later we get to appreciate the fact that our Rabb is in control. So we get not only to appreciate it, but also to really, really feel comforted, to feel that joy that, yes, I am not in control, but my Rabb is in control of everything beyond my imagination. And that's really, really a source of much comfort and much solace and much peace. And that's why we start readily and surrendering. Surrendering becomes easier and easier. And then we realize that it's not even an option. It's an option in the sense of acknowledging the reality, but it's not truly an option from the fact point of view. As was mentioned, my breathing is being sustained right now, whether I acknowledge it or not, whether I accept it or not. That's my reality. The reality is that I have no control over it, and that it is being sustained, that someone is in control. So surrendering and submitting becomes truly, in fact, it is just an acknowledgement of our reality. And that acknowledgement brings with it the new knowledge, that knowledge that relieves us, because deep down we know that we are so powerless and we have so many needs. I'm saying so many needs, but actually everything is a need. I mean, there's nothing that I can do myself, even those things that we imagine we can do ourselves. And that comes, so it becomes easier to surrender, because as we remember, we realize that that's what it means to be abd, that we are the object of rububiyyah. We are being taken care of. We are the guests. We are owned property. We are we belong to God. And that belonging is what we all crave for. We think belonging is belonging to a profession, to a place, to a family, to a name, but those things never truly ground us, and we don't feel rooted, we don't feel safe. But when the more we appreciate what being abd is, which is a mirror to rububiyyah, the more we feel that safety of being rooted in being abd, through that connection to the divine. And we know and we witness that we are being taken care of, and that gives comfort, because it does not only include this worldly life, but the unknown future, which even in the best situation that we can imagine, has without that dimension, without the future, the dimension of an endless future, everything crumbles and everything becomes meaningless and purposeless. So it becomes a joy to surrender, a joy to know that we are owned property, that we are abd. And so we celebrate our ubudiyya. It's the best thing that could happen to us. And it's not something that we do. We are not serving, actually. We are being served. Everything is being put into our service. We are the one being blessed. Subhanallah. Anything else you want to share, inshallah? Otherwise, we'll end.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate all the comments, including yours, Yamina, and it had an immediate resonance when we talked about belonging, especially these days, because we have during the storm we have a tree that fell on our roof, and it has been like the last couple of days we've been hoping that the tree is not our tree, it's municipality's tree, and they are hesitating, is it our tree, is it your tree? And I very strongly felt like, no, please, it's your tree, please. And it doesn't belong to us because it needs to be taken care of. So that really gives
it's a burden, huh?
I'm looking at these estimates, and can we remove the streets?
By the way, I don't know if it's clear from what Isra said. Few of us know who are here, neighbors, but a huge tree. There was a storm on Friday evening, and lots of snow and lots of wind. And this huge tree just was totally uprooted and fell down on Isra's house on the roof. Subhanallah, may God protect us. Alhamdulillah, nothing happened to the family.
Alhamdulillah, yes. And I mean, so that, the ownership, who owns this tree, has become a big issue between us and the municipality. With finally, they said that they're going to pick it up. They're like, yeah, it's not ours, it's yours. So this whole notion of owning, has a new spin for me, because really ownership goes with all kinds of burdens. And to say that I own myself, as opposed to realizing that, no, I'm not mine, somebody else has responsibility to take care of me, to make sure I'm safe, and really to take care of me is actually a very beautiful concept. That I agree with whatever has been said before, that we do have a natural resistance to it. Partially that resistance has a point, partially, as Yamina said, it's because we feel the only way we can be safe is when we have things under our control. But there are ways of being safe where you're not under control. The things are not yours. They don't belong to you, and you can still be safe. Like in this really,
yet they are under control.
Yeah, they are under control. Yes. So.
And alhamdulillah, they are not under my control, because I would mess it up. I can calculate some variables and be totally oblivious of many others. So it's good that they are not under my control. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So, and the other thing about Fatiha is that notion of hamd, that it starts with hamd and praise. And gratitude. It really highlights the heart of our being. The whole reality is this praise, this hamd, living because we're alive because of hamd, because of this being taken care of, and to start the surah starting with hamd. Gives us a key into what it means to really why we're in this world. It's to see that, to offer that gratitude and turn that into praise. That's also very important. So is there anybody else who wants to share anything from our couple of weeks of journey in Surah Al-Fatiha?
Dr. Isra, I don't know if it's just me, but your voice is coming a little bit low. I don't know if anyone else is having that problem.
It's a tree. Yeah. I was just saying, is there anybody else who wants to share anything? If not, we then turn to Dr. Yamina to, inshallah, guide us, lead us in tonight's session again. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, so tonight, inshallah, will be the final with this surah. Inshallah, we'll carry on with another surah. I'm hesitating whether to carry on with Surah Al-Baqarah or not until Ramadan. Inshallah, whatever we can benefit from it. So actually, last week we started with the seventh and the last ayah of this surah, which was Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim, the path, the straight path that we asked to be guided to, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. And this Sirat is Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim, the path of those you have blessed. And now the rest of the ayah is غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Not of those, it means not the path of those who have incurred anger or those who have gone astray. And so remember how the straight path is the path of those people upon whom God has showered with his blessings. And now it's غير المغضوب عليهم, which is often translated as those who incurred or earned God's anger or your anger. However, in this particular text, in this particular ayah, there is no mention of God, there is no mention of your anger as your God's anger. The word used is maghdub, and it is a passive participle, it's ism maf'ul. And maghdub alayh means one who incurs anger in general, the one upon whom anger descends. So al-maghdub alayh here, maghdub alayhim in the plural, means that everyone is angry. What is first understood is everyone is angry at these people in some sort of like they attract everyone's anger. And being a passive participle, it means that the door of the action of anger is not mentioned. And because it's not mentioned, then it's open to include everything that comes to our imagination, like whose anger are these transgressors, these oppressors attracting? Everyone. People's anger, God's anger, of course, God's anger is also included, but not only God's anger, people's anger as well. Aren't people angry at transgression and oppression? And even the whole creation, what comes to my mind, there is this ayah in the Quran where we're told فَمَا بَكَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّمَاءُ وَالْأَرْض, and the sky and the earth won't shed tears, or do not share tears over them, over the transgressors, because these transgressors, they have no respect for the creation. And the creation includes everything, not only human beings, but even everything else. They do not perceive the creation and beings as bearing messages from the unseen, as being ayat, signs, messengers from God. And so they exploit and harm nature for their own selfish benefit. It's like everything is for them to use, and they think this way of people as well. If you're of use, you're good, otherwise you're not good. They have no, they're unscrupulous people. So no one likes this, this attitude, this transgression, this oppression, and these transgressors, these oppressors, they attract anger. So that's interesting that the passive participle is used, those who have incurred anger. And this is also a clear indication that anger and condemnation is the consequence of what these transgressing people bring upon themselves. It is the consequence, the result of their own, of something they are doing. And what they're doing is because they reject divine guidance and follow their own delusion, their own whims. They do whatever they want. They think they know what to do. And they end up putting themselves in this situation where they anger everyone and everything. Then not of those who go astray is an active participle. So remember last week, the beginning of the ayah is a verb. Those you have blessed. God gives the blessings. And then it's a passive participle because people are doing things that incur and attract and earn anger. Nor of those who go astray, it's an active participle. Dalin, those who go astray, the people who are lost because they failed to follow divine guidance. When people live mindlessly in ghafla and take things for granted, they end up not following the straight path. So here it could be people who actually refuse to follow the straight path, or people who just do not intend. And I always like to emphasize this, because for most of us, the problem is not rejecting and denying. The problem is that we do not intend to follow the straight path. If we do not do it intentionally, if we don't make the decision and we do it mindfully, then without realizing, we may deviate from the straight path. When people live in ghafla, mindlessly, and they take things for granted, they may even think that they are following the straight path, when actually they never even reflected on what it means to follow the straight path. Lots of people among Muslims may think that following divine guidance means is limited to the 5 pillars. And even that, their understanding of the 5 pillars is so superficial. One example that I gave many times, because it's easy to understand and because it is our understanding of the first pillar of Islam, the Shahada. The professing the Shahada, the witnessing, the testimony of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is what makes us declare that we are a Muslim, a submitter to the will of God, a surrenderer to our reality as abd. But most of us don't even know what it means. Lots of Muslims think that to profess the Shahada means to say the words. And okay, they may also mean that it means to believe in it. But to believe in it for lots of people means that we don't deny it. But not denying is not enough. It's the beginning. Yes, it's important not to deny, surely, but it's certainly not sufficient. To not deny something doesn't mean that you believe in it, that you confirm it, that you know what it is. It's only the beginning. So Can it be sufficient that we just don't deny? Where is the iman? Where is the ihsan in this? Can we testify to something when we're not even sure about? La ilaha illallah includes not only belief in God, but in akhirah. And it includes a belief and certainty in akhirah. It needs some work to be done. It's not just something we're born into or something we do once. It's something that we need to learn and we need to live with and renew. Like the Prophet ﷺ says, جَدِّدُوا إِيمَانَكُمْ بِلَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So La ilaha illallah is something that needs to be again and again confirmed and lived with that reality, and so that our iman is renewed through it. And it is then that we can experience that following the straight path intentionally, consciously, is truly the path of divine guidance, and it truly leads to ease and blessings and ni'mah. And we do feel it to the extent that we do it knowingly and consciously. But rejecting divine guidance and not following the straight path leads to deprivation from rahmah. And for the believers, because beliefs has many degrees of intention and consciously following and reflecting and seeking the guidance and embodying it and living it and experiencing it. So to that extent, we experience the ease and the blessings, and to the extent that we don't, our ease and blessings are also their interference with deprivation from rahmah. And from this ayah, we understand that there are the two groups. In the middle, there is غير. So صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So المغضوب عليهم and the ضالين, those who incurs anger, and the those who go astray are one group, and the path, or one path, and the path of those who have received God's blessings is the first group, and that's the group of the prophets, as we understand from the message of the Quran in general, and the people who follow them, warathatul anbiya, and their followers, the believing people, the muhsins, the righteous people who follow the straight path that leads to happiness in this world and in the next. These are people who witness, who make the shahada. They witness the beauty, the order, the perfection that is manifested in the creation. They do not follow blindly. They do witness it. They see it. They perceive it. They feel it in the world and within themselves. And they strive to reflect those qualities within themselves in their lives and become mirrors to their Rabb. That's the living, conscious ubudiyah. And as a result, they receive the favors of their Rabb in two ways. One is the favors that everyone receives anyways, but most people are not even aware that they are favors, and so they are unhappy because something is missing. They feel that something else out there is needed, when actually it's not out there. It's something is missing in their perception, in their acknowledgement of what is. But these people, so they first perceive things as they are, meaning as gifts, as favors from their Rabb. And this brings them a new happiness. How do you say it? Becomes like light upon light, that knowing that awareness of being taken care of being the host of this so compassionate and most generous host, brings them even more that sense of comfort and sense of pleasure and sense of peace and happiness, and they feel that they belong, and they are on a journey to home, to Akhirah, which is our true home. And so the transience of this life that makes the human soul, the ruh, cry and sad, does not bother them too much, because they know that it is temporary. We are here only on a temporary journey. And so they experience happiness in this world and even more fully in Akhirah, inshallah. The second group is that of the people who do not follow the prophets. They do not follow the straight path of divine guidance. They are the people who deviate from the straight path of balance. This is the path of balance, as we talked about the last 2 weeks, the path of balance and order and justice and beauty, not only within the world, but also within us. Because when we know our ubudiyya and we surrender to to God and to his balance, his will, which is that he willed everything to be balanced and beautiful and just, then when we surrender, that little part of our life that is left to our free will, to our choice, we strive to align it with divine will. And it has been made easy unto us because we are inclined to what is balanced and ordered and beautiful and just to all. And so we start mirroring those qualities in our life, in our thoughts, in our words, in our actions. But for these people, the people who deviate from the straight path, is just the other way around. They transgress the balance through excess or deficiency, which leads to injustice, to oppression, to wrongdoing, as we saw last week and the week before. And therefore, their way of being in the world results in much, much, much pain. Like, subhanAllah, it's very easy to disturb the balance, and we can make the world very ugly. Human beings can have this ability to make the world very ugly for themselves within, and it does reflect onto the outside. So different forms are used in this ayah. The first is a verb, an amta, you have blessed. People, the path of those you have blessed. A passive participle, al-maghdub alayhim, those who incur anger. And an active participle, al-dallin, those who go astray. So the term ni'mah here, which we discussed how it means more than blessings, and it's chosen, this particular term is chosen because ni'mah has this connotation of comfort and ease and delight, to which the human soul really, the ruh, I mean by soul here, the ruh inclines towards it, it longs for it, it loves it. So when we hear the words ni'mah, and it has that ease, and we want to, how to say, it's very attractive. We want to be among those people. And it's a verb because it's a gift of our Rabb, our generous, our compassionate Rabb. So by using a verb, this ayah draws our attention to this practice of the Mun'im, that our Rabb is the Mun'im, he's the bestower of ni'mah, and it is his sunnah, his practice. Sunnah means practice. It's his sunnah to give. So it's also by drawing our attention, it's also inviting us to reach out, to go and request from him. He is the one who gives. there is this verb, this giving. He is giving all the time. So since it's his practice, his sunnah to give ni'mah, to give blessings, then please, and you have given it to all these people before us, so please give it to us as well. Bestow your ni'mah on us too. So it's an invitation for us to ask from God, because he's the giver. And it's a verb, not a noun. It's a verb because it attracts our attention to the action of giving, which we so much need. And for al-maghdub alayhim, those who incur anger, it refers to those who have exceeded the limits of the three powers, the power of passion, and they have committed injustice and depravity. And Imam Nursi, rahimahullah, he reminds us, he has a nice point. He says, quote, I'm quoting now from him, he said, since there is in the essence of depravity and injustice an evil pleasure. So there is in a human being, because yes, it's an injustice for the other party, but from the party of the one doing the injustice, it feels like having power, control over everything. So there is an evil pleasure, a vicious pride that do not sicken the soul. So the Quran mentions a consequence that does sicken it. It does, the passive participle is used because anger is used. It's saying these people are doing something that will end up by bringing, incurring anger on them. And it doesn't mention what they are doing, because what they are doing, the human ego loves it, because there is some pleasure in it. There is some vicious pride, he says. And so it's like something that a part of us really like, and we don't want to, we rationalize. We don't say that, yes, but I am exploiting people. They're working for me. I'm not giving them enough money. I'm making them work a lot. The ego says, but I'm providing them with work. They would be starving without me. And part of me says, yes, I have power over all this. I do whatever I want. And so the Quran doesn't mention what we are doing. It says, whatever you are doing, however pleasurable, it doesn't matter if it's an evil and vicious pleasure and pride, the consequence is everyone will be angry at you. And that sickens us. And then he says, and that is the descent of divine anger. And so anger from everyone, and particularly from God, which matters the most. And the fact that a passive participle has been chosen, he says, implies continuation. And it means it's a hal. You are in this state of incurring anger unless you stop it. And this is an indication that the rebelliousness and evil become ineradicable characteristic if they are not halted, if they are not stopped by repentance and forgiveness. So it's like an invitation to repent and forgive, ask for forgiveness and stop this, because unless it stops, the anger it incurs will not stop. And anger frightens us, especially if it's anger from someone who has the power over us. Because if people are angry at us, we may not care if they're not more powerful, of course. Yes, Isra?
Yeah, that was exactly and what I wanted to highlight, and you already highlighted this idea of incurring anger is crucial when you're incurring the anger of God, of divine anger, because that's the one that it can have consequence. Otherwise, if people are angry and they have no power over me, ego says, oh, okay, who cares? People are angry. So what?
We rationalize it. We say, you know, they are deluded. They don't know what they are talking about. People, we are very good at rationalizing things and justifying.
And also, like, if that person has no authority over me, it's not a big deal. I mean, here, really, the primary, maybe the only, I don't know, point there is that you are incurring divine anger.
Yeah, and also when it's divine anger, it's not only he has power, but it's not only in this world, but just in case, if this is speaking to the believer, the one who has still, there is hope for this person. He's still listening to this. So it's like, it's not only in this world, it's divine anger. And if you don't stop it, it will be, we'll find anger in the next world as well. So it's something that we really don't like, if we care a little bit.
And it's so interesting about like how it is so connected to our psychology too. Like, I really like that point that you shared, that something to the short-sighted part in us, our nafs al-ammara, they, you know, certain types of sins and injustices look like, yeah, I mean, it's pleasurable, like, because you're so short-sighted, you don't, if you step back, you see, like, this is horrible. But in that moment, there's that sick side in human being that wants to pretends to enjoy that and maghdoob really, like, wakes you up, like, no, this is where it's going. If I am in this, I'm in big trouble. You know, maghdoob is a very strong word. And then it's so interesting that then, because it's passive, it also says you can do something about it. Because if it identified explicitly God's anger, then I can't do anything. He's angry with me. What do I do? But maghdoob is like, you attracted anger. So if you stop,
it's related to me. It's a consequence of what I'm doing. Because nafs, you know, the ego likes to say, yes, but they are doing it. God is angry at me. No. It says it's not important who is angry. What is important in this case right now is that you are the one doing something that is attracting anger. So stop it. Yeah, alhamdulillah, mashallah. So beautiful. There's so much wisdom even in the wording. Everything is an area in here. And ad-dallin, those who go astray, is an active participle. They're described as those who go astray as being misguided, because here now misguidance is in itself repulsive, and it pains us and it disturbs us. No one wants to hear that they are misguided, even if it's not related to God or to Akhirah. It disturbs us. What do you mean I'm misguided? Everyone wants to be right. So here the active participle has been chosen because, unlike guidance, it is not given to us. Misguidance is not something, it's like something that we...
I think guidance is a little bit confusing in English because it sounds passive, but in Arabic, dallin is those who go astray, right?
Yeah, it's going astray, yeah. Going astray. So like going astray is not something that's given to me. It's something that I go astray. I don't seek the right way. So it's a state that people choose to remain in. Even if they don't actually seek it, they choose to remain in. Or at least they do not choose to leave or to seek the right, the straight path. And so unless they decide to stop it, to stop either knowingly being in astray or unknowingly living in ghafla, and stop that and choose to intentionally pursue guidance, in which case they need to seek it, they need to do something about it. So So, but here what is interesting is that going astray is we are not told the consequences, because the going astray itself is repulsive, is something that we don't like. And add to all this that that these people, the people who deviate from the straight path, there is no future, no everlastingness, no true future. Everything ends with death. So in their view, in their misguided view, everything is bound to end. All goodness, however much goodness they collect, whether it be material or immaterial, physical or not, even spiritual perfection, everything is bound to end, either itself or end. They will die and leave everything. And all happiness, however, whatever glimpses of happiness they may strive to get, are bound to cease. Everything is impermanent. And this knowing makes their lives even more miserable here and now, not after they die, here and now. Knowing this is painful, even before Yawm al-Din, the day of judgment. And in this understanding, perception of the world, there is no hope, because there is no true future. And so from their perspective, all their efforts are in vain. Like, it's such a dark path, terrible, terrible life, very meaningless and purposeless, however much meaningful it may seem. Even if they are talking about serving humanity and everything, deep down, you're doing all these things and it has no meaning, because I will die and they will die. Subhanallah. So at this point, I'd like to ask you a question that actually bothered me in the beginning when I was reflecting on this, the meaning of this ayah. And the question that came to my mind was, why mention this second group, those who incur anger and those who go astray? Like, isn't it enough to pray to be in the first group of those who have been blessed? Anyone who would like to share? Anything comes to your mind? Why mention this second group? Okay. Well, ask God to guide me to the straight path, the path of those whom you have blessed. Why do I have to specify what it is not?
It's like, when you stop to ask for directions to an address, you say, like, how can I get to this address? And you don't add saying, I don't want to go to the grocery store. I don't want to go to the library. I just want to go to this house, right? When you ask that address, that's enough.
So why?
No.
If you have any idea, please share. Okay, so I'll share what came to my mind first as an answer to this was, like, just a second, let's start from the beginning. What is this? What am I reading now? I am listening to God's message, God guiding me, right? So the message of this surah is for us. Our Rabbi is teaching us what we need. I always go back to, the beginning, because I won't be guided to the answer if I'm not in the right position. If I don't know where I am, whatever direction is given to me won't make any sense. And so if we knew what we needed, there would be no need for the message of this surah, for the message of the Quran. It means it is teaching us something that we are not aware of, something new. That's why it's such a gift. That's why this surah, this Quran is a gift of rahmah. And it is the Quran, and this surah, the surah is Quran as well. Quran is actually the flowing, the divine address. It is a reflection of Rububiyyah. Our Rabb is speaking to us for what purpose? To show us the way, to guide us through the straight path. So it is itself a reflection and manifestation of Rububiyyah. And so from our perspective, I realized that I'd say, okay, let's pray to be among those who have blessed with following divine guidance. However, part of me seems to feel generally that when I don't follow the straight path, it's like not so bad. It's okay too. I mean, it's okay in the sense that I'd be missing on the blessings. But okay, if I miss on the blessings, it'll be still okay. Like it's almost like a neutral position. I won't get the blessing, and that's it. But this ayah is telling me, no, the truth is not that at all. The truth is very different. So we're taught in this ayah, and actually in many parts of the Quran, there is no such a thing as a neutral path. When we are not following the straight path, when we are deviating from it. And when we are deviating from the straight path, we are not only missing on the blessings, we are also at the same time earning pain. We are earning something ugly. We are either oppressing ourselves or others. We are partaking in wrongdoings. Even when it seems like, it's there is pleasure in it. It feels pleasurable, but it doesn't mean that it's good. That can't be our, how do you say, our unit of measurement. That's why we need divine guidance. That's why on our own, the world is, you can see, just go and look around the world and you will see that people do need divine guidance, because on their own, they mess it up. And not only on a worldwide, like social, communal level, but also on an individual, personal level as well. We do mess up things. So it is very important to realize that when we deviate from the straight path, we not only miss on the blessings, we're going on a painful path, a path of wrongdoings, a path of misery. And because we are transgressing the balance, so it's not like there is no neutral thing. The neutral thing is the balance, is the good thing. So there's no neutral. Neutral is our imagination. And also, something very important that I learned from the tafsir Risalat al-Nur from Imam Nursi, something he repeats a lot, which is when we truly grasp how awful the consequences of deviating from the straight path are, then we can truly appreciate the ease and the beauty of following the straight path. We have, unless it's like appreciating light after being aware of the possibility of darkness. We don't have to go in darkness necessarily, although we do go into it to certain extents. But if we had no sense of darkness, light wouldn't mean anything to us and we wouldn't appreciate it. And here it is the same. We are our attention is attracted to the awful consequences of deviating from the straight path, so that we can truly appreciate what it means to follow the straight path, the path of ease, the path of comfort. And so now I feel so grateful for this second part of the ayah. It's such a rahmah, it's such a blessing. Itself is a rahmah and is a blessing. We're told to ask not to be among those who incur anger or those who have gone astray. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So when we truly listen to the Quran, when we truly listen to this surah, Surah Al-Fatiha, which for me, listening means we don't listen to it with our ears only, we don't listen with our intellects and understanding only, but also with our hearts, with our soul. We absorb the meaning, we feel it in our heart, we feel it in our soul. Only then we can start truly understanding and weighing the meaning and what it means to us. And so when we listen and absorb the meaning of this surah this way, meaning with the intention to live it, with the intention to follow its guidance, with the intention to embody it, then this phrase, for instance, غير المغضوب عليهم, those, not those who incur anger, suddenly it fills our heart with fright. You don't want, when we see these people who incur in our imagination, suddenly we see these people who incur everyone's anger and God's anger, and it's like anger is being hurled at them from everywhere. It's terrifying. We don't want to be among them. I don't want to be among them. You want to run away. And so this is known in the tradition as maqam al-khawf, being in fear, bewildered, terrified. You don't want to go there. This is a very, very scary path. So we want to flee. We want to run away from it. And where do we flee? أين المفر, as we are told in Surah Al-Qiyamah. أين المفر, where to flee. And in Surah Al-Dhariyat, we are told, فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ, flee unto God. And how do we flee unto God? We are told in the next ayah, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ, do not worship anything besides God. This is fleeing to God. So what do? This surah, from the beginning, we go back to the beginning of the surah. So in that state of fear, of being terrified, I don't want to go into this scary path, but what do? Because we're so powerless. And we remember our Rabb. We remember that our Rabb, yes, I'm powerless, but my Rabb has power over all things, that his rahmah encompasses all things. And so we are made to remember rububiyyah, to appreciate rububiyyah. Oh, I'm not going into this path of anger, this dark path, this scary path. Run back to my Rabb. So that makes me, it's like pushes me, gives me that momentum to run back to my Rabb and appreciate his rububiyyah, appreciate his rahmah. And so we are inspired to rely on God. It's so relieving, so comforting to be able to rely, to trust, to have tawakkul on our Rabb. That's maqam al-tawakkul. And so we realized that we started with feelings of we start feeling, appreciating, let's say, not feeling, but appreciating how much we are in need of Rububiyyah, how much we are in need of our Rabb being so powerful, in control of everything, being so merciful, so compassionate, and so generous. And so we start, we love, our heart is start swelling with appreciation, with gratitude, with praising God, praising his all-encompassing, everlasting rahmah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and it is filled with love for him. And so we respond with worship, with devotion, and we seek refuge in worshiping God alone. That's how we run away from the scary things. We run away to God. It means we worship him alone. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. You alone we worship. And this is maqam al-ubudiyyah. And since we are so powerless and weak and we have so many needs, then we realize that we can only rely on our Rabb and nothing and no one else. No one else can help us. And so we are taught in this surah to seek comfort in his endless rahmah and ask help from him alone. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. From you alone we seek help. And this is maqam al-raja, which is the station of hope and relief. So maybe you heard of khawf wa raja. It's a cycle of khawf wa raja. We're made to start with khawf, with fear from deviating from the straight path and falling into this scary path, dark path of incurring anger. And from there we seek rububiyyah, and then we rly on God alone, tawakkul, and then ubudiyyah, we worship God alone, nothing else. We realize that nothing else is worth worshipping, and we ask for help from God alone, and that opens the gate of raja, of hope for us, because our Rabb is nothing but Rabbul Alameen, the Rabb of everything. And only then we'll be ready to sincerely appreciate Rububiyyah and divine rahmah, and to seek help and worship God alone truly, and not other things, because we think we're worshiping God, but at the same time our heart is full of love of other things for themselves and not as gift of our Rabb. And so we start to appreciate divine guidance, because it's so easy to deviate unless we go through this cycle, this maqam, through our heart and soul, not only intellectually. We may think that, oh, people out there, they deviate from the straight path. No, the straight path is so narrow in that sense. It's broad because God's rahmah is infinite, but to our perception, it is narrow in the sense that very quickly we forget. And so we are in constant need of being guided. And so we appreciate divine guidance, and we ask for it again and again, and we revel. It's remembering that I have a source of guidance itself is a huge source of blessing. It's a ni'mah in itself. It's a rahmah in itself. It's a blessing. It's a source of happiness and joy for us. It's a relief. And so we start to truly appreciate divine guidance, because we need it so much, because it's so easy to forget and deviate from the path of the straight path, the path of blessings. And we may think in our ghafla, in our mindlessness, it seems it's okay if I deviate. No, it's not okay. You know what? That when we deviate, it's very, very scary. It's a very dark path. It's a path that incurs anger. It's a path that we don't want to follow. We don't want to walk, inshallah. And so it's through this contrast that we start realizing the needs in us. We start realizing our dark side in us, that side that has that vicious pleasure and doing things that are not nice. And it is through recognizing them that we can ask for help and strengthen our ubudiyah, inshallah, until that that part of us surrenders and is totally purified and cleansed, bi'idhnillah, by God's mercy. And inshallah, that we realize also we'll start appreciating divine guidance, because it is the best thing that can happen to us in this world and in the next. It shows us divine guidance is the path, or the straight path is the path back home. It's the only way to true lasting joy and happiness in this world and the next. And for those who go astray, it refers to those who have strayed from the straight path of balance and justice because of delusion, and because their passion have overtaken their intellect and their conscious and their being. And so they are controlled by false beliefs, but they are not even aware of it. And that's what we do in our retreats, because sometimes we start realizing that there are things that I don't want to do or to be. It could be an inner doing, being unhappy, being depressed, but I don't want to be in that state. I don't want to be doing that. But somehow I seem to have no control over myself. It's because deep down there are some beliefs that I never questioned that are controlling who I am being and how I think and how I feel. And so we need to become aware. And it's like when you put the light on a dark corner, it becomes light, inshallah, and we realize that those beliefs are false beliefs. Nonetheless, when we are not aware of them and when we do not decide to let go of them, they do rule our lives, and they lead us to very unwanted unwanted states of beings, very painful life. It's a waste of our life, a waste of our potential of who we are and who we are supposed to be. And so just as all blessings and true happiness lie in the straight path of belief, the path of justice, the path of balance, as we saw last week, the path of following divine guidance, the path of misguidance is full of pain. Because in this path, even blessings cause pain, because they are impermanent, because they are pointless, because they cannot in themselves, they cannot satisfy the human heart, the human needs. So nothing is truly good or truly beautiful. And so we need help, we need compassion, and nothing around us can provide us with help or compassion. So if we deviate from the straight path, if we go astray, then we'll be alone. There will be no help, no no true help. And deep down, even if there is something that looks like help, that looks like giving us some momentary happiness, deep down we know that it's not. Because deep down, we want something lasting. Our deepest needs are for lasting happiness for ourselves, and it's not enough. We are not happy on our own. We want all our beloved ones to also be happy. And if that need, those deep needs of ours, remain unsatisfied, then life is painful, it's miserable. And without belief in God and in Akhirah, those needs are never going to be answered. And life becomes meaningless and purposeless. And for the human heart and the human soul who crave and long for eternal purpose and meaning and joy, that is itself very, very painful, very dark, something we don't want to stay there. It's very depressing. Just to think about it is depressing. And so being the path of those who incur anger and those who go astray are paths that are dark, that are full of pain and misery, pain for ourselves and causing pain to others as well. And add to all this that meanwhile, while we are deviating from the straight path, we are not fulfilling our true potential, our true human potential. Because our true human potential is to live our ubudiyah and to become conscious mirrors to our Rabb's beautiful names and to become our Rabb's addressees, mukhatab, and his khalifa, as we are told in the Quran. We are created to be his representative on earth. And this is only possible with God's help and with his guidance. And if we do not seek help from God, if we do not worship him alone, if we do not follow the straight path of divine guidance, then we are made to feel a void inside us, like a big hole, like a black hole that nothing can fill or satisfy, because nothing can satisfy that needs of ours except surrendering to our reality. And our reality is that we are abd, and we need to prostrate not only physically in the salat, but also metaphorically. We need to live in that state of prostration, in that state of appreciation, in that state of accepting, acknowledging that reality, and not only acknowledging it and making peace with it, but the more we make peace with it, the more we realize that this is the gift itself, that we are abd, that we are connected to our Rabb, that we are made as mirrors that reflect the Rububiyyah, that reflect the divine names, and we revel, we take pleasure in tasting the divine names in the creation and within us, and also as consciously being channeling those beautiful divine names. And so that's what it really means to worship God alone. And that's the only way to follow, that's the way to follow his guidance. And without his guidance, we are truly lost. So this ayah reminds us of how painful and how meaningless our life would be without acknowledging God's rububiyyah and his rahmah, and without following his straight path, without following his guidance. And if we think that I am not following divine guidance and I'm okay, I am sleeping. I'm not awake. It's a state of delusion. We're deluded and deceiving ourselves. And if we stop and pause and ask ourselves, are you truly happy and satisfied? Of course not. If there is no true future, and this future is tomorrow because we only have the now, we only live in the now, it means there is nothing to hold on to. So we're only lying to ourselves. The only al-urwatul wuthqa is God. The only thing that we can truly hold on is God, because everything is perishing except wajh Allah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربي إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina. Are there any comments or questions at this time?
I have a question, but it was I might be remembering a little bit incorrectly, but at one point, Dr. Yamina, if I understood correctly, was talking about how it's so easy to kind of deviate from the straight or the balanced path. And assuming that I understood this correctly, I was wondering, if this is the path in which, my nature is inclined to, and I kind of have to go out of my way to transgress against this balance. Why or how can it become so easy for me to kind of leave the path or go astray or be in a state of imbalance? And here, I mean, it's not easy to constantly be mindful, or at least for me, I'm working on it, but to always be conscious, in a conscious state of knowing your own createdness and being aware of your reality at all moments in one's life.
Thank you. It's actually a very important point, and it came up many times before in different forms. It is true that it is our fitratan, like we are created to be inclined towards balance, and it has been made easy for us. I said that in the sense of at the beginning of the journey, because once we start the journey, very quickly we are going to become more and more comfortable in the state of balance, and it becomes harder and harder for us to deviate. But it does not mean that now I won't do anything. There is no such a state as being neutral and not doing anything. If I decide to stop worshipping, to stop acknowledging my ubudiyya, then I will go backward. But it is unlikely in the sense of it becomes easier, but it does not mean just because it's easier, now I have no free will. I cannot decide to make the wrong choice, if you see what I mean. So at the beginning, because we are used to living in ghafla, because it became like negativity, imbalance, like for some people, I'll give a very simple example. I remember people telling me, oh, like, I know we shouldn't be backbiting, but isn't it like so pleasurable? Why? It's not because backbiting in itself is pleasurable. They know that it's awful. They wouldn't want it to be done to themselves, but it is a habit. It's like an addiction. And in the beginning, it seems like it's easier to stay in that addicted state. However, in the beginning, to get rid of the addiction may take some effort. But very quickly, we go back to our fitra, and it becomes easy to stay in balance and in the fitra. It becomes our new habit. So to build up a new habit is going to take some effort, and some effort, not necessarily effort in the sense of thought. It starts with thinking. What we think and what we believe. We have to, our prayers, because sometimes we pray for something, but we believe in something different. We believe that, oh, this is very difficult. I can't change. Some people say, but I can't change this. I'm used to it. Yes, you are used to it, but it's not true that you can change. You can change. So the moment that I start living more consciously, more mindfully, and I say, I can change, of course I can. If I keep every day renewing my prayer, God's rahmah is infinite. Why not? Just as I learned to be in this state, I can unlearn it. So that unlearning phase is what seems to be, as you said, like it seems to be like, aren't we fitratan inclined towards balance and easiness? Why is it difficult to get back to balance? Only because we spoiled the balance, and our spoiling the balance became our habit. But if we are patient and compassionate with ourselves, with the people around us, if they are in that stage, then Bi-idhnillah, as we are told in the Qudsi Hadith, if you make one step towards me, I come running towards you. Every day will become easier and easier. And when you said that, like remembering that I'm abd, that I'm being created, sustained here and now, is not so easy. I remember sharing once, someone had said the same thing, and then she herself answered and said, because she said, how, like, it's not easy for me to remember 24/7 that be conscious that I am a abd. But then she said, yes, she was a medical doctor, and she said, I never forget that I'm a doctor, even at home, and like, let alone when I go to the hospital. The moment I enter the hospital, that's it, I'm the surgeon. And even, when they are on night shift, they go to sleep, they have their beepers, and if it beeps, they immediately wake up and immediately they start operating, and they are fully present with the patient. They don't say, oh, like, I forgot I was a doctor. So it's a matter of intention. And we put our attention to what we intend. So if I am finding something difficult, you don't have to be a doctor. If you're a student, or if you work, whatever you have something to do, you don't forget one day to show up at work or at school, because you fully have accepted that identity. So if we forget that we are created, it's not because it's difficult, it's because we have other conflicting, contradicting beliefs that are more powerful, that we believe more than I am created. So I am created is not yet a belief. It's not something that I truly live by. It's just something that I don't reject, and I leave it there. But my life is ruled by other beliefs, and I have to find them out. It's very easy to find them out. That's what we do in the retreats. like, and sometimes if you don't want to find them out, just repeat that. I am being sustained. I'm created. My breathing is sustained now. Write it down. Everywhere you see, in your home, in your car, whatever. And if your intention is to accept it, if you made peace with it, it's just that you forget it, after a while you won't forget it. Very quickly you will accept it. But of course it has to be, you just don't read it. You read it and you remember, yes, this is the truth. This is my reality. Right now, I don't know how to breathe, but I'm made to breathe. Alhamdulillah. Do it for a week or two and give us the answer. It will become easier and easier. And then anything that, all the beliefs that contradict it will start to die away. It's like you are not feeding them. Those trees or plants that are not being watered start wilting away and dying. So it needs work. Everything needs work, whether the false one or the right one. We need to foster habits because we are always thinking, we are always living, we're always being somewhere. We are either in the right place or the wrong place. So that's our the matter of choice. However, just keep in mind that even if it took 20, 30 years of thinking in the wrong way, believing wrong things that we never questioned, it takes a very short time to believe in haqq, in the truth. That's there you can see how the path, the straight path, the path of righteousness, the path of ihsan, the path of balance is made easy. And not only it is easy to change, but it also brings, you start feeling lighter, happier, more at peace. And those are all signs and indication that that path is a path of ni'mah, a path of ease, a path that is more in conformity with the way we are created, with our needs. I don't know if it answered, inshallah, your question.
Yes, thank you. I will reflect upon what you've said and it makes sense. Thank you.
Together with reflecting, do right things around you. They are it's a very good way to remember. If your intention is, I got it now and I made peace with it and I'm really happy with it, it's just that I forget, that forgetting is because it's, there are other habits. So I need to foster a new habit. That's it. You need to build it. And it won't take long until it becomes your way of being. And then you won't even need, you can take them off and put something else, inshallah. But do try it and give us feedback, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you.
Okay, are there any comments, questions? Okay, in that case, then we will stop here and